All right, good morning, and thank you so much for having me here today. As Allison mentioned, I'm Shelby Burlew, and I cover all of Southeast Michigan as the MEEP verifier for the Michigan Department of Agriculture and Rural Development. I'm certainly no stranger to this area and agriculture in the Western Lake Erie Basin watershed, living over in Hillsdale County. So today I'll be providing a MEEP program update for the Western Lake Erie Basin watershed. So for those who don't know, MEEP stands for the Michigan Agriculture Environmental Assurance Program. And it is most notably recognized by these signs as you drive in the countryside throughout the state of Michigan. MEEP is a comprehensive, proactive, and voluntary agricultural pollution prevention program that uses a systems-based approach to assist farmers in evaluating their farms for environmental risks. This program is available to all farms in Michigan, regardless of the size of the farm, the crops that they grow, or the animals that they raise. It is the goal of this program to help farmers identify environmental risks both on their farms and in the fields, to then address those risks and reduce any potential impacts to the environment, ultimately protecting water quality. I want to stop here briefly at this slide to show the different phases of the MEEP program. Phase 1 is where farmers have an opportunity to attend a meeting or a field day event to learn more about the MEEP program and request a farm visit by the local conservation district technician. Phase 2 includes the on-farm risk assessments that I'll cover more in the next slide. And the final phase in the verification visit or process is where I come into play as the verifier to complete the final step in the process of verification. The 4 systems of MEEP are farmstead, livestock, cropping, and forest, wetland, and habitat. These assessments are the standards of the program and are based on the MDARD, Right to Farm, GAMPS, or Generally Accepted Agricultural Management Practices, as well as state and federal environmental laws. The farmstead system looks at environmental risks on the farm, which includes wells, storage of fertilizer, chemicals and fuel, livestock manure storage, and more. The cropping system looks at potential risks in the field, specifically soil tests, fertilizer, manure, and pesticide applications and record keeping, conservation practices, and more. The livestock system looks at potential areas of risk associated with livestock farms, including manure storage, transfer and land application of manure, record keeping, livestock lots, odor management, and more. And finally, the forest, wetland, and habitat system covers the management of non-farm land, including woodlots, wetlands, grasslands, and more. So who is MEEP? MEEP includes everyone on this slide and more. From farmers to conservation districts and technicians to over 50 partnering organizations and the MEEP Advisory Council to program staff with MDARD. Everyone listed here is critical to the delivery, implementation, and success of the program. Conservation district technicians who work with the MEEP program are the real boots on the ground delivering this program to farms all across Michigan. They provide on-farm, one-on-one assistance to identify potential environmental risks. They help to identify conservation practices and technical resources to reduce those identified environmental risks on the farm or out in the field. And they provide the guidance needed to ensure that farms meet the MEEP standards, including applicable right-to-farm GAMPS, as well as state and federal environmental laws at the time of verification. So I'm going to take a minute here or a second and say, can I ask that all the conservation district technicians working on the MEEP program, go ahead and raise your hands right now. Raise them high. Thank you guys so much for the work that you do. So MEEP is an important program across the state and especially here in the WLEB watershed. MEEP is based 100% on a partnership between farms and their local conservation districts. It is all about the trust, which could not be done without the ability to deliver this program on a local level. Technicians bring an unbiased, fresh set of eyes to the farmstead and out in the fields, which is valuable to any farm that wants to make sure they are farming in a way that minimizes impacts to the environment. Like I mentioned earlier, MEEP is proactive with its environmental risk assessments and access to technical resources and assistance to address risks on the farm. MEEP is also confidential, which is a valuable element to building that trust between a technician and a farmer. And lastly is recognition. Every farm is unique in how they view and value their MEEP verification. There are currently 200 diverse verified farms and 335 verified systems in the WLEB. Environmental outcomes and measures of progress in the program are based on current numbers achieved at the time of verification in the last 5 fiscal years, which aligns with the MEEP program's 5-year verification cycle. So you can see here the breakdown of MEEP verified systems, and that almost half are cropping system verifications. You can see that 17% of all the cropland in the entire WLEB watershed here in Michigan is currently verified through MEEP in the cropping system, meaning that these farms are following MEEP standards for nutrient and pest management, soil and water conservation practices, and more. This graph represents the number of MEEP verified farms and the scale of verified cropland acreage. This is 158 cropping system verifications on 158 individual farms in the WLEB. Again, almost half of all verified systems. So from this graph, you can see that roughly 40% of the MEEP verified farms in the cropping system farm over 500 acres. I'll go ahead and let you read through this slide that looks closely at current soil and water conservation practices in the MEEP or in the WLEB on MEEP verified farms. But I do want to emphasize that at the time of a MEEP cropping system verification, this is just some of the information that is collected from the farm that really does recognize the conservation practices implemented out in their fields. So what's next? First and foremost is continued farmer participation. So we're working on finding value in the program's efforts and recognition of conservation in the field or on farms to lower environmental risks. And for one, I think that MEEP is a great first step in making this connection. We also want to make sure that the necessary resources and tools are in the hands of technicians in the conservation districts who deliver this program locally to farms in the WLEB. We also want to work on tracking the progress of MEEP and conservation efforts in the WLEB through the development of and improvements made to the MEEP database. And through continued, or I should say, through improved communication efforts, we want to be able to better share the story of MEEP and conservation to our partners and the public to raise awareness and support for our farmers. And with that, thank you so much for your time, and I really look forward to your questions at the end of this session.